make sure this is good. Hey.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Shine Together. I am your host and founder, Pratibha Day. You are tuning in for your cup of courage, hope, and imagination today. These are our Chai Together mugs. So it's just one journey at a time, if you can't read Maggie. And we use courage on this platform to showcase our stories. We use hope to overcome. We use imagination to resonate and understand with the stories that are being shared here today. So today I have with me a very special guest, Miss Maggie Doyne, the founder of Blink Now. How are you feeling?
Hi, I'm good. I'm excited. I'm excited for my chai together.
Is it Indian chai? Masala chai?
Yeah, definitely masala. Can you claim that as Indian or is it Nepali? What's the difference between Nepali chai and Indian chai?
You let me know. You've been there.
I guess. Maybe Indian chai is more has like a different combo of spices, but we should Google it later.
Yeah. Because there's chai and cha. Like I know Asia. I don't know, I haven't explored as much in Asia to know, but it's so incredible.
They're probably pretty similar.
Yeah. I saw your videos. Like I told you I've been following Blink Now since like the 2 years now. And I saw all the YouTube videos of the kids and the tour and you making paranthas and the little kids dancing. That one video, it's like viral. And then your daughter goes to dance too on the porch. I think it's like from the upstairs.
Yeah, we're a very dancing, music, food friendly family. Those are like our three. If you like music, dance, and food, and just like playing and laughter in general, you'll fit in and you're welcome to come to our family.
Gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
So I know quite a bit. So let me start with, when you were young and you went off on the adventure, right, to go hiking, and did you know that you were going to do something, this grand? Like you had no idea, right? You were so young.
No, definitely not. I mean, I was living in India at the time. I loved it there. I felt like I was learning and I was meeting all kinds of people, and I became kind of through that experience working, it was called Ramana's Garden in Rishikesh. I became really close with the Nepali community because at that time it was 2004, 2005, 2006. It was this time when there were just so many, and there still are, Nepalese living in northeastern India, working as migrants, fleeing from war. So I got to know the stories through that, and I just became really curious about Nepal. And, why all of these families, beautiful, amazing, kind, strong families had left their country. And through that process, I became really good friends with a gal named Sunita, and the two of us planned a trip together. And the actual mission of the trip was just to find her home, her childhood home that she left when she was like 8. So we were both kind of coming of age. I was trying to figure out where I was going in life and what I wanted to do and what my purpose was. And she was kind of very driven. She knew what she wanted to do. She wanted to go to medical school, study science, but she didn't know where she came from. And so she really wanted to go back and see her village. So the two of us planned that trip together. And it turns out that her village was in this very remote region of northwestern Nepal. And we trekked there, bussed there. We took a pony cart. I mean, all kinds of, it was such a difficult journey. It was just as there was an armistice with the war. And I got to watch her see her home, meet her extended relatives, answer the questions about her childhood that she had and her identity that she had, and see through her eyes what it was like to be a victim, a refugee of violence. And that was a really powerful experience for me. It was also the most beautiful place on earth. It just mountains and the people and how welcoming they were. And I just felt really tied and connected to the culture.
Wow.
And then I decided, as you know, I kept making those trips and eventually stayed. So Yeah.
How'd your family feel about that? You being young and being there on your own?
Yeah, well, they were totally on board with the concept of travel, the gap year, the cultural immersion, the travel, like all of that was, I mean, my parents are and were really progressive, really, just the idea in North American culture that 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds go on to these 4-year colleges, take out massive hundreds of thousands of dollars of loan. Some people know what they want to do and what they want to be. I had no clue. I knew that I liked kids. I babysat on the weekends. I played sports beyond that. So I like just the thought that I would have gone straight to college and spent all this money and just tried to figure it out in that way when there was this alternative to the beauty of travel. So I was really lucky that they were on board with that. As time progressed, and I don't know, I would always pitch it to them like, oh, I'm going to stay 6 more months. Oh, like 5 more. I'm going to do this and then I'll come back and I'll defer from college. So I think there were moments when it became real and they asked like, are you ever coming back? But also in that early period of just trying to establish the home and the center and just what we were doing with Coppola, I did come back quite frequently to babysit and plant sit, and I was house sitting and I needed to make money and I was studying the profit world. So they got to see me and we had a lot of conversations and discussions, and eventually they would come to Nepal and like totally get why I was there and feel just as connected as I am. So it was good. Yeah.
I'm so happy you had the support, because it takes a village. It literally took a village to build the center, which is now a home. Mm-hmm. And I know you put $5,000 of your savings into that.
Babysitting all the way. You can make a killing babysitting in suburban New Jersey. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's evolved over the years. It's a real true grassroots community project with lots of programs that are integrated: the school, the women's center, health and wellness clinic, sustainability. But it really started with the concept of just, there was a riverbed and children breaking rocks to survive, to make money, to sell to construction sites. So there were little kids, 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 years old, with mallets breaking rocks from the riverbed. And it was just this scene in Nepal that stopped me in my tracks and like brought me to like humanity and just made me question a lot of things of where we were and as a world and what we were doing and kind of my own privilege and what I'd been given in life, and seeing girls who looked exactly like me but were just born under a different set of circumstances in a different place, and it felt that we were the same and yet our realities and our futures would be so different. And so I think then that really kind of was the anchor that brought me there. It was this thought that I had that like, what if one day I could walk across this riverbed and not see a single child breaking stones? And it started with Hema, this beautiful little girl who was a rock breaker and then went on to primary school and had a smile that lit up the world, and just moved into the home and all of the different projects and programs that we do. But yeah, it's required a village. My co-founder Tope is amazing.
He is. I like the video of him teaching little girls to say, salute and namaste. Namaste. I saw that so many times. It's interesting. Because I had went to Thailand because I felt it was a calling. I was born in India. I felt like Asia is my calling. And after my studies, I'm actually going to study to be a speech pathologist. And so after that, I'm just figuring out now, right? You said after school, it's like after a few other degrees, now I'm like, this is what I want to do aside, including Chai Together. And it's so interesting. Do you feel like your soul is in Nepal? Like, you're born here, but like you gravitate more to there.
Yeah, I definitely, home resonates in all kinds of places for me. At that time, when I was 18 and 19, I think I felt like I can do something here. We can do something here. There was an opportunity to just make something happen in post-war Nepal. And we had like Taupe and me and the community, we had like a real passion that I think fueled us. As far as home and like where my soul feels, I've had to learn over the years that home is wherever we want it to be, and it's in New Jersey for me. I still feel a pull to New Jersey, where I grew up and where I'm from, and just so much gratitude to that community, to my family. This year, because of COVID, I've been in Canada a lot with my husband's family, going through things here, and I felt like a beautiful connection to this region and the family here. And then Nepal is home. It has felt like a sense of home. But yeah, I think I felt a calling in the sense that we can do something here that's meaningful and powerful and will change lives. And obviously, like, fell in love with the children and ended up really building a home and a life there for ourselves. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the home. I know you mentioned the healthcare, the schooling, all of that. So what has been the most challenging part so far of, Blink Now, of building a foundation, with multiple aspects?
Yeah, everything's hard.
Oh, thanks. It's so true. It is.
It changed over the years. In the beginning, like in the early years, I was only 19, 20 years old. And that youth gave me this, like, you can do anything kind of attitude. It also was really humbling because I knew that I didn't have the skills, the finances, the degrees that it would take. So it made me seek out mentors and a team, and people around me that could help. So that I think that was a good combination. But with that came this, I don't want to say ignorance, but like, just, I got this, I had this like, this like go-getter attitude that I think it starts to wane as you get older. But no, I think it was hard just to immerse myself in a culture that wasn't my own. I was very self-conscious about it. I'd read so many books, done so much research on NGOs and development work and why our world is in this place, especially in the context of, lesser developed countries, even though that's not even the proper terminology. So yeah, I was just like being very aware that I was an outsider and that could be a weakness, and that I needed to learn so much language, culture, build those relationships with the community. And then just getting people to invest and believe in your dream. It got to a point over the years where I couldn't just babysit my way through everything. Help. And then, there's a sea of NGO paperwork and nonprofit documentation and, strategy. And so that was a really difficult time. Obviously, overcoming, just making sure that we were equipped to handle the kind of cases we were taking in when it came to childhood trauma and mental health, and just so much suffering in this particular field that we chose to work in, and having to learn in my early 20s, like, you can't solve every problem. You can try to make it better, but there will be failures and mistakes and fallings, and we couldn't help everyone that came to our door. That was a really hard chapter. So all different aspects. I think navigating the two worlds back and forth, North America, just the differences, in Nepal. But through all of it, I think we got stronger. We listened. We got better at what we did. We started really small and just planted a seed, and then we grew it from there. We didn't go in with big, extravagant plans. Like I said, we went in with like, hey, let's help one child. Let's work on this riverbed. Let's, work on this community. Let's empower. Let's bring women into the fold because we need women. It's just so important. If you want to improve the lives of the child, you have to focus on women. So it was really organic and one step at a time. Yeah.
And now I know that the women have their own shop, right? On Blink now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we run a women's empowerment training program. It's called the Coppola Valley Women's Center. And each year we train anywhere from 30 to 60 women on confidence building, mental health, like citizenship, human rights. A lot of women our age and above and younger didn't get the chance to go to school in Nepal. There's a huge opportunity gap there because of the war, because of just the history and where Nepal was at that time. So the Women's Center has been a way for us to kind of go back in time and really empower mothers and young women to get the skills they need to feel empowered and safe and strong. And then tied to each training is a vocational skill. So they'll learn beauty parlor training. That's what we've been doing.
Aww.
Maybe a driving course, agriculture, sewing, weaving, just a vocational skill to get them to financial empowerment, which I think we've learned is the ultimate tool to being empowered and safe. Yeah.
I can agree with that.
It's so true. Like we went into the like, we'll teach parenting workshops and hygiene, and like the women knew that they needed proper hygiene. We just went into it a bit naive. Like they just didn't have the money to buy soap and shampoo. And I remember doing this survey. We were doing like a nutrition class, and we realized that if the women in our community had access to more money, the first thing that they would have bought was vegetables. It wasn't that we needed to teach them how to eat or like to eat good, healthy food. They know that. We're all human beings. It's just that in Nepal, fruit and vegetables are really expensive. And if you don't have access to eating rice and beans. So yeah, it was a really, we learned so much from the women, and by bringing them into the fold of our community, it just made us so much stronger.
And, it's also generationally the knowledge that's passed down. That's what they know to provide for their family. Food is essential, right? Like one meal a day. And I also wanted to mention, I like the recent strategy that you have comparing $5 will buy you, a cappuccino for $5, for the children. I don't know. You let me know how many meals that can provide.
Yeah. Well, 25 cents is a school lunch.
Wow.
So that's your school lunch for a couple weeks. Yeah. It was really, doable to break down the budget and see that we could tackle these real problems and suffering with really simple solutions. Not that what we do isn't complicated. There are complicated layers to it, but a lot of the basics, like having a child have a safe place to be all day, preventative care, access to things like vaccines and deworming for parasites, clean water initiatives. Like we have these solutions that can improve lives really directly and immediately. And so a lot of it's, and then just like the power of a primary school education can get you so far in life. There's so many incredible statistics on what having an education does. So yeah, it was really, like, you can see as a 19-year-old, you're in Nepal and you're like, what? Hema could go to school for a $5 admission fee? Like this is crazy. And we know now that it's not that simple. There are so many barriers. But in the beginning, it really did feel that way of like, she's just not going to school because she doesn't have a backpack and a uniform, and she needs this couple dollars of income from the rock breaking. It just felt like, so you can see that in my 19-year-old brain, it was like, this is ridiculous. I can fix this. Like I can do something for Hema. It obviously gets more complicated than that, but really simple. There are some really simple solutions for directly improving the lives of a child, a woman, a mother. And that's why we called it In the Blink of an Eye, because you can change a life in the blink of an eye. Yeah.
Did you come up with the name?
Yeah, that was like my 19-year-old self. It felt like everything had happened so quickly, just meeting Hema and like making that decision and having my parents send over my wire transfer of babysitting money. So You can really see who I was when I was 19. I had this
Yeah.
like real sense of urgency and real sense of like, we can do better as a human family. And yeah, I really wanted it to happen instantly. Now, like 15 years later, I'm still, maybe even more than 15 years. It's probably been, if that
I was
was,
gonna ask you how long it's been.
well, what's 2005 to 2021?
You do the math. But is it easier now? Like, is it easier with the strategies and things in place? Like, you have a team. Like, do you feel like you can like breathe? Like I have someone taking care of that over there, or you still have to like shadow?
I think I still feel the weight of being responsible for like a lot, and those sleepless nights, and then just so like love expands. But with love, you just care about the kids so much, and every challenge and every stumbling block that they go through, you feel it because we're so connected. So it hasn't, I mean, but in other ways it has gotten easier. Like never in a million years as a founder and co-founder did I think I could be away. Like I just always thought maybe it was my ego, or just like I always felt like the goal was that it was self-sufficient and community run, but I always felt this like pressure to really be there. And just the fact that with COVID, I've had to be away. And that our team is strong and robust and rooted and love the kids and care for the programs as much as I do, and that we don't have an international presence. That's been really rewarding. I know. I know. The more you love, the more it hurts, and their pain hurts. And like now, I always say like caring for a 2 or 3-year-old or a baby is just as hard as loving and caring for a 21-year-old because they're going through their own like heartbreak and figuring out who they are. And so I guess in that sense, it doesn't get easier, because when you have a big circle of people you love, you can't help but feel pain and compassion and just concern and sleepless nights. That's the challenge of being a mother, I guess, or a sister or an aunt, or just loving love in general.
We're all emotional beings, but you're made special to do this kind of work because it's not for everyone. Like you need a special heart, right? Like to do that. Selflessness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have it. Like, I don't think what I do or who I am is super special, but I have had to learn coping skills for like, you either become really hard and your heart just becomes this rock of like, and the armor that you have to put up in order to like keep going on after seeing everything that I've seen. And, or you're just like a pile of mush that's crying and can't get out of bed. So I've had to learn a lot of skills to just, be in this and be in it for the long term, because I want to do this for the rest of my life, or at least until I don't have to do it, until we don't have children who are suffering anymore. Like that's the ultimate goal in our lifetime and in our generation, is that we don't have to worry about a world where children are cold, hungry, victimized by war, abuse, neglect. And we're just so far from that.
Someone has something to say. It is super special. I think it's Margaret.
Probably.
But yeah, what has, because a friend of mine had asked me, because Try Together, like me, sharing these stories is going to come to 1 year, August 31st. And my friend was asking like, what kept me going? And I said, it's innate. It's something inside of me. Like I have to get these stories out, or like suicide prevention, all this stuff, like, right. The passion behind it, because he said most people quit, after a few months, you just quit. So like, has it been the kids for you? Like what kept you going, knowing that,
100%. There were so many times I wanted to quit. I can't, I mean, it is, I just, there have been so many moments where you're just like, I wish one of my fantasies, I could work at a grocery store and be the checkout person, and just clock out at the end of the day, right? But when you're a mother,
yeah, your Maggie mom.
Yeah, but that's been what's you can't give up, but it's filled me with so much love and so much joy and so many powerful, life-changing moments and so much goodness. So with that heart and that despair and that, like, the sleepless nights and to keep going, and the passion is like this deep, love and just really good things that have come of it too. A family, a lot of unique experiences. So it's both, it's both hardship and good things. I wouldn't take it back for the for the world, but I do think if it was like a different cause that didn't have to do with children and our children in general, I probably would have pieced out. Who knows? I don't know.
I do have a question. So, like when I was in Thailand and they were still, even though corporal punishment is illegal, they would still hit my kids, right? In my class, pre-K, like 3-4 years old, with a stick. And I was bawling my eyes out because, that's abuse. But to them, it's discipline. But some of these kids had disabilities like ADHD or autism where they can't sit still. Kids aren't robots, but specifically in that country, it's the teachers are the parents during the day, like whatever the teacher says goes. And me not being Thai, like that was really difficult. But then they did stop doing that when I spoke up, and I like, I just have a power voice. But then I was also told to like stay in my lane by the company that I went through, because something can happen to me and that they're not responsible, jail or whatever, that I can get hurt if I voice myself. So like your experience in Nepal, I know you had the support, but I want to go back to bringing up the topic of is it pronounced chopati? Like the huts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like, that those, and for those who don't know, that's a hut where women go monthly while they're on their periods, correct? And may I just share with them? Yeah. So one of the students from Blink Now had gotten hurt and passed away because they were with their aunt in the hut as well, and it caught on fire. So a situation like that can be prevented, and you want to bring change. Did you? I don't know what was done after that, but like, is the community hesitant, like on bringing that change, even though they know what the result of it is?
Yeah. I mean, your question about this theme of when is it our place to speak up and step in, and when do we step back and say, no, that's the culture, that's the way that things are done. I have so many stories about corporal punishment.
Right.
I think child putty is a really great example of like, okay, I came in as a Western woman and here I am, raising girls. I'm a woman myself. And you're on your period, this natural human thing that a lot of us women experience every month. And you're expected to sleep in the cow sheds, purify yourself with cow urine. You can't go in the kitchen. You can't touch the water source. You can't go near the temples. There's certain, there are just so many things that are off limits. You can't look at males in the eye. I mean, as a Nepali woman and a Nepali girl, that is the experience. And it's not just the cultural rules and stigma around menstruation, it's also the danger. So because girls are sleeping in menstrual huts or chowpatty huts, they're at risk for cold exposure. They're at risk for sexual assault. They're at risk for snake bites, smoke inhalation, like what happened to our student. The hut caught on fire because her and her 15, 16-year-old aunt were trying to stay warm. And this was just a little 5, 6-year-old who was trying to keep her auntie company and not have to sleep alone. So it's a serious issue. And when do you say, no, it's the culture? And when do you say, actually, this is wrong? And I have 1,000, as you can imagine, 10,000 stories about being in that position and being like, you know what? This is one for me to sit back and be quiet. And this is actually one that's black and white for me, and I need to step in. And it was an evolution. Like this most recent case of the child putty, our sweet little girl who died, was really hard because we felt like we were doing everything. We had outlawed child putty in our home. We had done girls empowerment workshops. We'd done parental workshops. We had taken such a strong stance on this issue. The government had as well. Actually, it was made illegal. The practice of child putty was made illegal and punishable by law by the Nepali government. So this was extra heartbreaking for us that this was still happening. And it is still happening in Nepal because it is so culturally pervasive, and because even if you don't believe, Pratibha, that your menstrual cycle will shatter everything in your family if you don't follow these rules. Mm-hmm. If anything happens to your mom, your grandfather, your uncle, it'll come back to you. They'll be like, well, it's because Pratibha, she didn't sleep in the cowshed, or she touched the water tap. So people just pay homage and respect the culture and do it. But yeah, corporal punishment was the hard one. For me, it was I go by the science. Corporal punishment, that's a black and white issue. First of all, you can't always blame things on culture either, because Nepali was founded on a Hindu Buddhist culture that was about compassion and nonviolence. So, and same with Thai culture. When you get into these discussions with school leadership or the community, one, you can't go in as an outsider alone. You have to leverage your people, your team, your community. It has to come not from us or me, but from everyone. And you need strategies, you need awareness trainings, you need conversations, you need science and facts and education. And that's why, Nelson Mandela said that education is the greatest tool. I'm going to botch his quote.
Go ahead.
It's not always culture. Sometimes it's just education, some, I don't know about child putty. It's not written in the books of Sanskrit.
I had never heard of it until I saw
my interpretation, and I've done a lot of reading, is before the time of pads and underwear, and you were bleeding everywhere. It was probably a practical thing. You had flies and you had blood and you bled on the blanket. It was probably a practical thing of but we've evolved, right? And it's in Hindu religion, you buried after death, you're buried within 24 hours. Well, that's a very practical thing so that diseases don't spread, so that, so I think it's just there are some things in culture that we need to bring up to speed with modern times when we have things like pads. And a lot of what we've been doing, for example, as a solution, is our Women's Center makes pads now, reusable, washable pads.
Wow. I did see that. I may have saw that.
So right? there are really simple solutions to these issues that are very culturally complex.
Wow.
Yeah.
Two things come to mind. I was just reminded that when I was a young girl, I would go to the Hindu temple here in New Jersey, I believe, or PA, and I was told to sit outside because I was menstruating and I wasn't allowed to go in the room where they're having, the dance and ceremony. I had to sit on a bench for about 4 hours because
that's child putty. Yeah. That is a different version of modern day child putty and menstrual taboo.
It just came to mind. I hadn't remembered, look at these are traumas too. You know what I mean? Things that you suppress that are brought up by conversation. And yeah, that's from culture. That's what my family had taught me. Oh, as a woman, that's what I need to do. And yeah. So.
Wow. I can't believe you just remembered that. Yeah. In modern times, I mean, in cities, child putty looks different for everyone. It's still a major issue in rural parts of Nepal. And that's actually where the incident with one of our students happened. And, but yeah, there's different variations of menstrual stigma and gender-based violence. And, these gender-based stigmas that have to do with being a woman. And we face it in Western culture and North American culture, but it's also, I think it's that much stronger in these patriarchal countries that still have a little ways to go. But like I said, education, empowerment is the tool. Like it is ultimately the way. It might take another generation or two, but I do think that child petty and menstrual taboo will be a thing of the past. And actually, the science and research is doing the same for corporal punishment. And I guarantee you that school that you worked at in Thailand, come 5 years from now, they'll just be like, remember that girl and how hard she was, and she was right. Like,
yeah, because I've had many trainings. Like my family used to have a daycare. Like I've done multiple, things with kids, and I'm there to teach them. So when I go to teach them, it's possibly my approach out of shock. Like, no, like this is wrong. But they're just like, where is this coming from? This is right. I was like, if you were in America, I was like, you'd be in jail. But the second thing that came to mind was the stories of Nepal, I believe, Instagram, where there was a gentleman. I think is an old gentleman, and he was speaking out for women. Like it was like a picture where they showcase his story and how he disagrees with the child putty. It was a story. I don't know if that's related to Blink now, but that's also another story that was on there.
Jay's a really good, from Stories of Nepal. Jay Podell is the founder, and he's an incredible friend and supporter of ours. And he's done lots of trips and a lot of storytelling for Blink now. And I love his style and the way that he brings out the voices of people, real people. And I love it. I'm just like, the way that he translates too is so powerful, because it's really, truly, you hear the person speaking in their native tongue, but it's translated into English. So it really evokes the emotion and what they're saying. He's an incredibly talented guy.
He is. I didn't think of that. That's a skill, because I have to remember, hey, that's not in English. So it is him doing that.
But you feel that they.
Yeah, I felt like it was the man. Yeah.
and it is like probably his photography, his ability to just sit and listen, but his ability to evoke the exact way in nature that someone's saying something and not translate it or put a wand over it. He's so good.
So I want to ask you, so did you end up going to college?
Oh, no. No, I've done lots of college drop-offs for the kids.
Wow.
But no, I ended up not going back, despite year after year saying and promising that I would. I've done so many trainings and so many courseworks and, so much online. And whenever I got to like a place where I felt like I wasn't learning or growing, I always said, well, then I'll go back and I'll find my way into a classroom again. Luckily, over the last 15 years, we moved into this space of like, you can learn anything. You can constantly be growing. And there was never a moment where I felt like I wasn't like evolving as a mom, as a CEO, as a co-founder. Like I never, as just every day, I feel like I'm learning and expanding so much. And every day I feel like we're getting better at what we do. So I haven't gone back. There were times where I was like, oh, I need to like know more about this, or this needs to get better. And, figured out a way to do it, which is like, we're so lucky to live in this time where there's a book actually that Marie Forleo wrote called Everything's Figure Outable.
Oh, wow. We're
lucky to grow up in this time. I think like even just one generation before us, you would have needed encyclopedias and
it's too big.
Now it's just like read a book online that you can download in 2 seconds. But no, so I never got to go back. I kind of feel like that at some point I got into my 30s and I was like, that ship has sailed. It's not for everyone. And I also think school's for like figuring out what you want to be, what you want to do, different exposure to different things. And I was so lucky that I figured that out early. Like that's been the greatest blessing and gift of my life, is that I was 19 and I found that fire and that passion. I get to wake up and do something that I love that will never feel like work or, yeah.
I'm happy you found it, because it inspires people like me, like before Chai Together even came about.
Yeah.
So if you didn't do it, I wouldn't know at all.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, I think that's why we all have to tell our stories.
Yeah.
And that's why Chai Together and just these conversations are so important.
So how's everything going there now in Nepal?
Well, COVID has just put a spin on absolutely everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on a macro world scale, this pandemic has been so disproportionately unfair and dangerous for our more vulnerable populations of people, migrants, people of color, orphan children, single women. Our families who we serve have across the board, like 70% of families have lost almost their income or their entire income and inability to work. So I think on a macro scale, we're looking at a major backslide when it comes to the issues of hunger, poverty, education, child marriage.
Wow.
And that's really sad and really hard. And we're seeing that on the micro level at Coppola. We've seen more child marriages. We've seen increased rates of violence against women. We've seen our own students suffering with now almost 2 years out of in-place learning and education without the luxury of Zoom or tablets or virtual learning. We've had to just pivot and adjust in so many ways. Food deficiencies, and when you don't have that income and you lose migrant work in a country like Nepal, that affects food supply and food security. So we're working harder than we've ever worked before, and we've had to step up in bigger ways than we ever have before.
Wow.
And it's just been hard. I mean, and it's everywhere. It's not just Nepal. It's in every community across the world right now. So I think that's what makes it extra hard. Like when there's a flood or an earthquake or a hurricane, it's like, boom, all alarms trigger, a fire. Okay, we're focused on that issue. But this issue of the pandemic globally has affected everyone, but especially children. Like we're just the fact that kids can't be in school for 2 years, that's going to have a major social, emotional, economical effect on children. So we've just been on every level pushing really hard to keep the kids safe. Our mantra right now is no lives lost.
Wow.
So, I mean, when the second wave hit, you were probably following everything happening in India. Just like lack of oxygen, lack of preparedness. There's vaccine inequity. We've got only about 4% of all of Nepal vaccinated at this point. And I really believe that vaccination is going to be the only way. So, yeah, we're okay.
At the end,
we're just like every day we wake up and go to sleep and just try to keep the kids safe and supported mentally, academically, just in all with food security. We have a food bank that we're running, teachers calling. We've adapted our curriculum to learning packets. So we just got to get through this and get through this COVID pandemic. But I'm good. I've been working on a book.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, I've been cooking up a book project. So when I came to Canada to be with Jeremy and Ruby, I just was like, okay, well, I'd been working on it for years, and I thought if I can't do it now in a cabin on the woods in an island in Canada during a pandemic when I can't even leave this teeny cabin, then I'm never going to do it. So I've really put my head down. I got the book done. I'm just finishing up edits, and it'll come out in February.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then we're having a second biological child. So I'm almost 7 months pregnant. And that's been wild.
You know the sex of the baby?
Oh, yeah. He's a little boy.
It's a son. Yeah. Look at that. You got one boy, one girl. It's
Yeah,
like,
Ruby's
okay.
not happy about it at all. Not happy at all.
Oh,
She
boy.
really wanted a sister. So last night, we were FaceTiming with all of the girls in Nepal, and I was reminding her, look at how many sisters you have. There are literally like so many before her, after her. There's this strange cluster of little girls right now on her age group. I was like, look, there's Tirjana, there's Alina, there's Kushi, there's Kushbu, there's Mamata. I was like, you're good. I promise. We just got to get you back there so you remember that you are surrounded in 28 sisters.
But what a great journey that you've shown for, her as well. The work that you do, and, it's different. I know you said it's not special, but like spiritually, like I follow Sadhguru and all, it's like, we're not special as people. Like we're like the size of a little ant, like a little dot, right, in this big world. But the work you do is special, because after talking to you, I can only imagine the hardships that you see over there, the things that you cannot change, and to accept that all that stuff is so hard. I would be crying every bit, every few hours too, with all the challenges. Like, it's so hard. So it's like, I do feel like it's special, because it's not for everyone. Like, you're built that way,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I would get really emotional, but I came to this place where like worrying and crying and getting emotional isn't problem solving. Not that that's a healthy way to be. That's not healthy. But there's only so much emotion you can have, and then we need to do something like purpose, and then like transforming it into action. So I've found that for me, the greatest way to cope as a living human emotional being on planet Earth, where there is so much suffering. I mean, everywhere you look, in our own families, we're all here to die. We're all going to die.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
We're all here to feel. We're all here to like have this human experience. And for me, the only thing that's worked, and I've been in the gutter, like I've seen it all, the whole spectrum. And for me, the only thing that has ever helped me, like medication,
it's okay.
Like all of it. The only thing that has ever really like been the best thing for me is like action, like trying to take action, trying to help others, trying to make it better. And that's the greatest thing for ourselves. So yeah, I think the sooner you can figure that out, like we can all figure that out as human beings. Like the only way to help ourselves is to help each other and be there for each other. Like the better off we'll be as a human family. And it's so counterintuitive, because as a human being, you're also like, I need to take care of myself. I need to put a wall up, and I never want to die. I just, but the only way to live is with bringing in everybody into the fold and taking care of each other and remembering that we need each other. So that's been the thing that's helped me the most, is just like, okay, I've had my sad moment, been in bed, like time to get up and do something. Gotta do something.
You know what? I looked you up. I recently just saw like you were on Goalcast and Forbes, and I'm just like, whoa. I was just like, what the heck? Like, I didn't know more about you than all I was seeing. I was like, wow, and all your younger pictures, like how incredible. Were you overwhelmed then? Like, whoa.
Yeah, it's all of the press pieces of it, and the girly magazines. And yeah, speaking at Forbes and having that platform, it was such a gift, because it fueled, when you get that kind of press and attention, it fuels support and people's generosity. And when they know your story, they can be a part of it. So it was really uncomfortable in the beginning. I hated it. I was always like, well, can you please tell the story of like the local people or the kid, like other, and at that time it was just, my story because of the babysitting or whatever, because I was young and privileged, white. It's what resonated at that time. So it made me uncomfortable. And then finally, Tope and I were just like, let's leverage it and then get back to work. Like,
smart, because then they would know. It would help with donations, you know?
Yeah, we just needed to like use that fuel and that fire and that platform and like turn it into again, the same theme that I keep saying, like just turn it into action, turn it into good, turn it into growth, turn it into like empowering the kids. So I tried never to get too like caught up in it, and instead like use my voice and my story and what I'd learned to like inspire other people. Because I also knew that ultimately it couldn't just be me. It needs to be all of us doing this together. And a platform like Forbes or Glamour magazine or social media, Instagram, gives you the power to like get everybody else on board. And it doesn't matter if it's Blink Now or our personal mission. It's like this everywhere. Like if you hear our story and you do one thing for someone else, that's a win in our book. Like there just needs to be more love and goodness and taking care of each other. So that's ultimately why I continue to do these, you know, to have these conversations.
Oh, wait, thank you so much.
It's like if one person listens and they're like, you know, today I'm going to go support my food bank or go help my older neighbor or sponsor a kid or just like anything, go like take care of the whales or the bees or the tree. Like unfortunately, there are so many things
there are
that need to be done. Like, there's so much environmentally, socially, racially. So much work to do.
And most of the time people just look out for themselves or focus on themselves as well. And it's like, it's not about you. Like this, like if everyone were to think that way, like life's not about you. It's like, what impact can you leave if you were to think that way? Like, what can you do now while you're here? You don't know if you'll be here later or tomorrow or a year from now. People are dying at 30, 40, 50, 60. Like, you don't know if you'll be old and die, you know? It's just the way it is, especially with all the chemicals and everything that's happening. We just don't know. And the food's not the same. Like things aren't as organic as they used to be as we continue on. So yes, thank you for this message. And I want to know before you go, so everyone already knows www.blinknow.org. Go donate $1, $2, 25 cents feeds a child. Recurring donations are a blessing. So if you can, whatever you can afford, please do donate. I do as well. And I want to know, what is your book about? Is it about your journey?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like my story was the only story that I was equipped to tell, which was the hardest thing about writing a book. Because, I mean, obviously through the eyes of me, you see Nepal, you see the culture, you see the people, you see the kids. But it is a memoir. And the reader kind of goes through the entire process.
I'm looking forward to this.
Growing up in the suburbs of New Jersey,
to
the experience in India, and ultimately the move to Nepal, and then motherhood, craziness. And I just tried to be honest and raw and real. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I wanted it to be a story for the children and something that they could hold in their hands. There's an airplane. But yeah, something for them to hold in their hands and for it to be real and something that they could remember from their childhood and kind of know me in a way and pass on to their children. So that was the inspiration for why I wanted to write it for them. And you'll see when you get the book. I'll definitely send you one. That there's a love letter theme, because I write the kids love letters every year.
I saw that.
So I've always kind of written them little love notes and family pictures with story, you know, and So there's little love letters to them, and it's a love letter to the world and to myself. And it's just about finding home and, the journey of motherhood. There's lots of threads in there. A lot of what we talked about actually is just like falling down and how to keep up and keep going and,
Wow.
Keep going and keep going and keep fighting for this world and each other. So it's, I think I'm going to want to crawl under a rock when it comes. It's definitely like a tell-all. There's a love story in there.
Oh wow! You and your
Many
husband.
love stories. Yeah.
Aww.
So
yeah.
how
did you meet your husband? Being over there a lot.
Yeah, I was speaking at an event in California, and he was there, and he was kind of mutually introduced by a really good friend of ours, and we connected right away. And I ended up going back to Nepal, and I didn't see him again for a year. But ultimately, we ended up meeting up again and have been together since. So
Look at that.
that's all. It's going to be, yeah. I hope it does something, and I hope the takeaway is like anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can do anything. We can all do this together. Yeah.
And it's also because if you believe, you're walking in your purpose. You didn't need a relationship. Like, this is just my perspective on it. Like, you're already doing what you're supposed to do, your life's work, right? And then someone comes in to share that with you, adds value to you, not like something you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely felt whole and complete, and like that wasn't something that I needed.
Yeah.
And in fact, like, it would really annoy me. People would be like, "How are you ever going to meet someone? How are you going to date? How are you going to?" And I was just like, "Oh, it'll happen if it's supposed to happen," and it did. So.
Aww.
And yeah, I'm whole and complete without him, but he's icing on the cake. For sure.
Don't let him see this. How old were you? Were you in your 30s?
30s,
yeah. So you're not in your 30s now? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm only 35. So we've only been together for 5 years. So time will tell.
Wow. It was so amazing to have you on here today.
Thanks,
pleasure.
I'm honored to be a guest on Chai Together.
Aw, it's so much fun.
This was awesome. This was so great. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for who tuned in. And please do go check out the website and do what you can and just check it out and read and browse. So
thank you. And Pratibha, let me know how I can share it after.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.